So welcome to Art 116, color theory, and we are in the throes of doing this painting project. So I'm going to pull this all together and get the bird's eye view of my workspace so we can talk about this stuff a little bit more. Before I started the recording, when I hit the record button, I was working on this morning, and I had my my yellow orange mixed up this morning, and so I was doing a lot of populating of yellow orange dots for me because that's part of my tetrad that I chose. But my highest key value, my brightest value, I wanted to kind of populate this pool of light that's in front of the apples in the foreground of the table. Now that I've got it populated, I'm probably going to come back in with darker and perhaps somewhat cooler things around the edges and start making little incursions around the edges to kind of break it up so that it's not just such a strong shape, but that it's just a little bit more neutralized right around this edge so that that concentrates the pool of light right here in kind of a long egg-shaped pool. And so we need to neutralize a little bit of this. The artist did that with these little kind of brush strokes that go on a diagonal, chop, 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 chop like this. And there's some little bit of neutralizing happening there. And so what we're going to do with dots is just kind of bring either our green or our blue violet or even our red dots and kind of start to bring them in from around the edges towards the center to try to bring in about a half an inch there and maybe make this little triangle of shadow happen here. And between this half an inch of margin and this triangle of shadow, you kind of circle the wagons here and you wind up with this pool of brighter light in the foreground to make that part of the foreground work. So, I mean, that's an easy, basic thing. Let's see, we're going to start probably with the next darkest color combination I've got, which is going to be my red-orange. And so I'm just going to throw a little red-orange in a puddle over here and start picking it up and then just kind of dotting into here to see how that goes. Hey, you guys, if you got any questions, or if I'm going way away from anything that you're at all interested in, please just unmute your mic and speak right up. I'll try to keep an eye open for unmuted mics. And when I see them, I'll shut up and call on you if you wanted to ask a question, get clarification on something that matters to you. And otherwise, see, I'm going to just do a little incursion here with my red dots. Little smattering of red dots coming in from the edges kind of towards the middle, and the red dots, reddish orange, are going to be kind of moving in towards the middle, but then they taper off. They're less dense as we come right in towards the middle here to maintain this rather long oval shaped pool of highest key value, and for me that's orange yellow. I've never used this kind of color combination before, and it's kind of a nice combination to use. My double split complement just kind of works out here because I can cheat more than. I never understood the value of cheating on this project until I painted it for like the 10th time, and then it's like, oh, okay. So I can, with my orange and my red kind of mixed together, but not really mixed together in this puddle, I can kind of swipe left and I can get more red on here so I can get a redder dot happening. I can swipe left and get a more oranger dot happening. It's kind of, it's a cheater thing. But anyway, you can kind of see what I'm up to here. So that brings in a little bit more of darkness around the outside edge of the pool of light and darkens it up just enough to get this to kind of concentrate the brightest part of the pool of light right here in this oval shape. So by kind of coming in from the outside edge with dots, and you got to kind of watch it because it's way easy to get going too far too fast with this. But as long as I've got some red orange out here, I'm going to just get some going out here as this trails off into a more of a shadowed area of the front end of the table over here. Why is my phone ringing? Gosh, I don't know this guy. Okay, so sorry about the phone call. So we've got some things going on. So as this highlight trails off over here, we're going to modify it, modulating the colors from just being yellow to being more, in this case, I can cheat a little bit, but more orange, red, and then we're going to get into my blue greens and blue violets way over here in the corner, because this part gets really murky and not distinct. There's just a little bit of a highlight right here. It's a dull highlight. It's nowhere near a real true highlight that like is on the front of this apple, but that's dull a little bit. There's something there. So I might want to take my warmer paint, my hierarchy paint, and see if I can't put a few smattering of dots there to kind of recap that thing. Even his kind of throwaway brush strokes somewhat do something in terms of kind of getting harmony to happen in the composition, help pull the composition together. So this little stupid area that really doesn't really do anything, well, it does something. It kind of pulls, it relates to this pool of light over here. It's a round shape that kind of relates to all these round shapes and round highlights over here, and it just breaks up this part so that this part isn't so Johnny one note kind of negative or neutralized color. So this little stupid thing right here does a thing, and I just wanted to acknowledge the thing that it does, point out to you guys the thing that it does, reinforce a little bit that it does something, and then move on. There's another one of those right up here, which kind of helps to define this cast shadow over here. This cast shadow is defined by its contrast between the material around the shadow and the material in the shadow. So that's a thing. But what really constitutes this junk, these brushstrokes and things that are out here outside of the shadow? Well, there's another one of those highlight things like this one down here, right here. So on this, I'm going to come up here into that area right above the end of, this is the cast shadow area, and I don't quite have it populated densely enough with stuff, but we will eventually get it kind of populated with stuff. And so I globbered a little bit of too much paint right in that spot. I don't care. Sometimes the accidents are the most interesting things that we do in painting and stuff. So I globbered a little too much there, but I'm trying to, maybe by making this highlight here and this highlight here, it kind of circles the wagons around this cast shadow area right here. And since we're talking about that cast shadow, and some of my shadows now need a little bit reinforcing, so I'm going to wipe off the paint off of my paintbrush. I'll go ahead and make myself a, let's do a blue violet. We're probably going to do both. We're going to do blue violet and blue green because those are my two darker colors. And so we'll throw some blue violet together here. Let's see. Nobody's asking me any questions yet. You guys are just enthralled by my painting prowess and everything. So, well, I can't blame you because it is wonderful. I'm going to rotate this around so I can reach this pretty easily. And I'm just going to kind of get some dots going in here to bring this a little darker and knock down some of the white paper that's still showing through in places. Sometimes you just got to come back because the job isn't done yet. And a second or third coat of dots can kind of pull stuff together just a little bit more. And that's good. Okay. Oh, somebody else came in. I heard a doorbell. Okay, somebody get the door, will you? I'm kind of busy right here. So I'm going to be bringing in my blue violet, which is my darkest value and kind of more neutralist value too. And I got to see where I need my darkest, most neutralist value. Hey, Riley, how's it going? Let's make sure you get some points for being here today. So I'm going to reach over and get a little check mark by your name. Riley, right there. Okay, so you get one. Okay, so I was putting some more shadow right in this spot, but I think right up in this little triangle here between these two apples right here needs something. And so I'm going to bring in, because it isn't dark enough right in that spot. So we're going to get a little bit of blue violet going in there. And you can see how that just that little bit kind of helps define the bottom edge of this apple. And let's see, we got to define this edge of this apple, and maybe we need to do a little bit more closer incursion to this contour of this apple right here to get this part of this apple going too. Somehow that doesn't look, it seems like it wants me to come over a lot more. So I'm going to do just a little bit more of that and then check it from a distance. It's kind of nice to have a computer monitor right out here, right out in front of my face, so I can look at the painting that I'm painting, and then I can look at a version of it that is much smaller and more consolidated. It's as if I stepped back 10 feet and I'm looking at this when I'm looking at it on the screen. And that helps quite a bit to be able to see what's really going on in the composition. I'm going to reinforce sometimes the stem and shadow that's in these places. And like this stem end shadow right here has an orange spot and a red spot in it. And so I kind of like to go over the top of the orange spot and the red spot to knock them down just a little bit more, because it's always a competition between the dark color, which is going to be your shadow, and the light color, which kind of helps to break up the shadow a little bit. I actually just put a little spot of paint right in the middle of an orange dot right there. And it's kind of weird, but it really does kind of knock that down, and it makes that shaded portion of that stem end spot work just a little bit better. So I'm going to come over here and do this one and strengthen that just a little bit. You're kind of on the second and third go around with this, you're now reinforcing certain shapes, and you're trying to reinforce the shape with color and try to make certain things do certain things with color. So that's that stem end. This stem end is way up here at the top edge, and we're just going to try to get that to just express itself as like looking at a crater from the edge, so that it's a very very skinny oval shaped kind of a stem end shadow up there on that one. This one I don't even think has one visible. So there's nothing visible on this one, and we were just painting this one over here. And so as long as I've got this paint, I need to knock down some of this white interspot space a little bit here. So we're going to just try to knock down the rest of the white that is showing through from the background. And maybe I have to put some of my dots like halfway onto the orange dots to make the orange dots not quite so strong. They're there, but I'm trying to knock them down a little bit, the yellow orange dots, so that they can maybe recede just a little bit more into the background. With the background, with any kind of shadow area, I'm thinking that the last color that you want to put on in the shadows is the dark color, because you can always kind of take a bite out of a bright colored dot by kind of overlapping it with a darker colored dot. And that way suddenly you're knocking it back, you're neutralizing the background, and you're giving the background more of its neutral kind of color cast. And when you take off some of the strength of the highlights of these orange dots just by taking a half of a bite out of each one, it's an amazing little effect that you're able to generate there. But you can Oops, I didn't want that color. Why did I go into that puddle? That's the problem about managing a palette. Sometimes you got too many colors on the palette, too much, and then you'll go into the wrong one. You also have to watch out having coffee or something, a beverage nearby, because you might wind up reaching for and drinking your wash water, your rinse water, instead of your beverage. Or you might wind up um, uh, washing your brush in your coffee. So painters get really distracted sometimes because we're in the middle of creative flow. And so it is kind of easy to, drink from the wrong cup or wash your brush in the wrong cup. So be mindful of that because that's kind of important. When I get a bunch of these blue violet dots on here, I'm going to switch over to a green violet. I'm sorry, a blue green. Blue green is my other color so that I can get another kind of good balance of colors in the background, mostly cool, mostly the blue violet and the blue green in the background with this smattering of yellow and red in the background gives me a really nice kind of, there's 40% blue and 40% green and 10% red and 10% orange. But the orange ones, for the most part, are also having a bite taken out of them by the overlapping, of the blue dot overlapping them. And when you do that, it really does knock that right back into the background. You've got some variety of color in the background, but when you put a dark dot and take a little bit of a bite out of a higher key dot, then it tends to really just knock that background back, knock it back, knock it down. So you're making a whole bunch of like little half moons or crescent moons, and it works, in terms of how you want to neutralize that background and knock it back and get the foreground to pop forward more. I've been talking for a while about this stuff, and I just wanted to do one more thing with you guys. So I'm going to actually put the painting away for just a second, and I just wanted to talk about the image itself and some of these ideas that I wanted to talk about. And how does the artist achieve some of this stuff? I went to the store and I bought myself a white marking pen. So I'm gonna unbox this white marking pen so that I can actually draw some shapes to highlight some of the stuff that's going on in the painting that you may or may not be able to see in this process. This has a little ball inside of it, so you have to kind of shake it up to get the paint all mixed up and to get the paint to flow to the tip and everything. So I'm going to shake it with one hand while I talk about this. So in the painting, what we're trying to get here are edges to create edges on the outside of shapes will help you to create the shape. And he does this with these contour lines. So we're going to look at the contour lines that he establishes around the outside in black, which you guys can see. I probably don't even have to try to really do that. But we do the edges with contour lines and contrast. And so we really want to look and see how contrast works here, because to get a shape to pop, you have a bright color in the center of the shape, and then it contrasts with its outside. And what separates a shape from the rest of the thing is the edge, which is the contour line, and the contrast to the background. So we're contrasting between dark, neutral outside of the shape and bright and warm on the inside of the shape. And we go over to the next shape, and how do we know that we're moving from one shape to the next? We have an outside contour line here, and we have contrast. We have color contrast between the yellow here and the red here. And so he does try to use color to create contrast between each one of these shape edges whenever possible, so that it really helps to define the importance of the shape, because we've got the bright color on the inside of the shape, and then we've got dark color or a contrasting color right next to it, so that we go from one shape to the next by looking at a contrasting color. So that's a thing. The next thing that I just wanted to talk about, because I've talked about these words, but I've never actually written them down before, So this is a highlight. I'm very interested in highlights, how he works with highlights in the composition. So let's see if this pen has a plastic. Ah, I have to cut this. What did I do with all of um, my knives and stuff that I had on this table here? I must have cleaned off all of my tools when I took my sculpture tools out of here. So I'm kind of peeling off this plastic coating. Bear with me for just a second. This is embarrassing. How are you supposed to do a demonstration? Okay, so we've got highlights here. Highlights are one type of internal shape in the composition to make the composition work. And so we've got a highlight area. This is supposed to, like, come on. Well, this was not a really successful heat marking tool. Okay, fine, be that way. I'll use my pen for now to do this. So we've got a highlight here that helps to define that. We've got a highlight. We've got a series of highlight here that kind of helps to define. And then there's other highlights around, we got even secondary highlights like there that kind of help to define those things. If I could get this pen to write, it'd be even a bigger miracle, because then you could maybe even see what I'm up to here. And I'm going to bring this camera down closer to where we're working here so you can maybe see it if it'll focus that close. All right. So trying to get the outside contour of this thing. Are you kidding me? That pen just ran out of ink. So we're going to go get another pen because we've got other pens right nearby. So here's a new pen. Let's see if we can get this one right. Oh, yes. Oh, you're killing me. So highlights are really important in the composition. And these highlights are curving, and they tend to help to pick up the round shape, the spherical shape of the apple in this highlight. Oh, come on. Okay. The pen doesn't even really want to draw on. So here's a highlight here, and here's a highlight here. The pen doesn't want to draw on the ink printed on here. So we've got these kind of series of highlight patterns that are his brush strokes on the different apples. And they do a really kind of an interesting thing. I've still got one more pen to play with over here, because I knew if I only bought one, I would need a backup. So let's try this one instead and see how this one works. This one is also sealed in plastic. Oh, you guys are just killing me here with this. You don't have to buy these things. I buy them so that I can try to illustrate the concept, the topic at hand here. So, okay, we've got that out. Oh my God, this one has a ball in it to mix up the paint inside the pen too. In the meantime, I'm going to try to make sure that I've got black pen working in case I need a black pen that works. Okay, so let's see if this will draw lines on here. Let's see, is this coated with anything? I think I bought two things that are like old stock or something, and they're not creating any kind of, really? Oh, wait, there. Okay, now it's writing. Yay. So the shadows on some of these pieces of fruit are in this, kind of shape that is kind of a crescent shape. It's that crescent shape of kind of shaded area on the unlit portion of the fruit. So, we've got a crescent shape like this on each kind of side of each apple. And then we've got the lit portion of the apple. We've got the crescent shape on each side of the apple and the lit portion of the apple. And if you really look at the pattern of what he's doing here with highlights over on the left side or left of center area of the composition, highlight, highlight. Let's see, oh my gosh, highlights of all kinds here. Okay, so we've got highlights, And then we've got shadows in each piece of fruit. And it's the combination of highlights and shadows on each piece of fruit that sells it as a spherical object, which is really cool. We've got this highlight, which is the pool of light running through the center of this thing. Come on, you. Um, we've got the shadows in the background. We've got, this shadow here, and we've got shadows between the fruit here, and some shadows between the fruit. We've got this shadow here and this shadow here. We've got this kind of shaped shadow here. And those shadow areas also create contrast between the pieces of fruit to help pop the pieces of fruit too. The only cast shadows we have are coming off of these two end pieces of fruit here. We have this cast shadow that we can see because it's tongue shaped and it looks like the apple. And then we've got this implied shadow that kind of runs off the composition and then picks up again over there. So we've got these two beaver tail kinds of cast shadows off in that distance. The rest of this stuff is like indistinct shadows, kind of murky shadows in the background of the composition. And so, he's got kind of highlights dancing in places and shadows dancing in places. We've got a highlight area and we've got deeper shadow area in parts of the composition. So, he's using all kinds of different ways of kind of breaking up space and breaking up shapes to try to actually help to sell the shapes more, to try to get the apples to pop more towards us and towards the viewer. Let's see, is this working now so that I can do this here? Maybe sort of. So, trying to get those highlights to pop forward and trying to get the lowlights to either wrap around the side of the fruit to kind of help sell the three-dimensional nature of the spherical nature of each piece of fruit, or shadows, which really do tend to recede in space. So we get highlights that advance and shadows that recede, and shaded areas that wrap around the fruit, and indistinct shaded shadow area, murky stuff in the background, which really helps to push back and make the background recede while the foreground pops towards the viewer. And so, that is kind of how to break it down and to find all the different kinds of shape things that are happening in the composition. And those shapes are done with color and color contrasts. And so that's really important. The idea of round shapes, I talked about it a little bit before, but I'm going to talk about it again. The use of round shapes inside the pieces of fruit to help sell these as spherical objects. So every time you have something that is either comma shaped or crescent shaped, the shaded portion of each piece of fruit is a crescent shape of some kind. Yeah, some of these are pretty convoluted crescent shapes, but it is a crescent shape of shadow that caresses the side of the fruit and also makes it seem like it's much rounder. And even the use of some of these other brush strokes out here kind of give a sense of highlights that are also kind of working their way around the piece of fruit in a crescent shape or comma shaped kind of a thing that leads the eye kind of around each piece of fruit and makes the center portion where the highlight is pop, but it follows the contours of the piece of fruit whenever necessary. It's not just a square, it's not just a static kind of a shape. Every brush stroke tends to help to follow around the contour of the fruit to make it pop. So when we take that information then and we put it back into our painting, we're looking at trying to get the shapes of these highlights to sort of be either a comma shape or somehow to get the shaded portion of the apple to really wrap around as a crescent shape on each one of these apples. And each crescent shape is going to be slightly different, but taken all together, we're going to get the idea of the crescent shape and the highlight to work in combination with each other to really sell the concept of the spherical plastic shape in a plastic space. And so color helps with that, but also you can't ignore the actual shapes of some of these colors, some of these brush strokes. We have to kind of really pay attention to where he placed his highlights and what the shape of that highlight is, how it kind of conforms to the contour of the apple. And then, make sure that as you're putting your paint down on there, you're going to get that shape to kind of follow the contour of the apple also to get that to happen. I need to now go in and rediscover my actual apples. For you guys today in the demonstration, I did the pool of light down here in the foreground. I filled in a whole bunch of the background and tried to knock down that background space a little bit in terms of being more neutralized or being a lower key, cooler color in the background to make that recede. This pops forward because it is a high key bright color. And now I have to come back and kind of salvage and reclaim some of that in the fruit too. So I've still got too much white showing in these two green apples over here on the right side. So I need to kind of consolidate and fill in and get my green apples to start working a little bit better. These three apples on the bottom are doing a pretty darn good job of being three-dimensional apples, contrasting with their background with a kind of a consistency of a shaded crescent on the right side and a highlight in the left center portion, of each apple. And so, and the back, and these two apples up here are doing fine too. I need to kind of help. These two apples need some help. They're not working together enough. The little shapes and stuff are not working together enough. So I got to pull this together more to get this to become more of a unified shape and start working as a spherical shape. And when I get those more populated with blue-green dots and then an interspersing of the yellow-orange dots, I think I'll have it, for these two shapes too. So even the teacher, has his challenges. Everybody kind of has to go through this as a journey of discovery with this painting. And so now I've got about 5 hours of painting into this painting, and I'll probably put at least another hour into it to get it to get prettied up and finished up and really start to pull together as a composition. So I'm going to come back to you guys with my face and do the talking head view at this point. This is where I lowered my camera to so that I could show that a little bit better. So now I'm going to raise up the camera out of this shot so that it's not visible anymore. That's where I usually have the camera when I'm working on the bird's eye view overhead, so that it's just out of the shot. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to unmute your mic, because I can see all of your mics right now that are all muted. And if anybody has a question, if you run into a little bugaboo or something that is vexing you at this point, maybe I can help pull you out of the weeds, because my job is to help pull you out of the weeds and get you back on track to get this painting done. Not seeing a whole lot of questions or concerns. You must have this well in hand. Well, the due date for this is Wednesday at midnight. Now, by Wednesday, I really hope that you guys have this painting, at least 85% done, so that you're just putting finishing touches on it by Wednesday. So please be ready to share this painting on Wednesday during class, because I would like you to turn on your cameras and, even just hold this thing up and share it if you can. The final goal then is to take a photograph of it, to upload it for the homework, to put it into coursework, so that I can review this and grade this. So we will want you to photograph this digitally and upload this when it gets done. If you can get that photograph by Wednesday, then we can certainly do a screen share of your thing and not have to have you put it on the webcam, so that I can see your smiling face as well as this thing. But I would really like you, if you can at all make it work, to be ready to share this thing on Wednesday, even though it's not due until Wednesday night at midnight. There's an extension on this already so that I will be accepting them late through Saturday night at midnight. If you just can't get it done by Wednesday, it'll still be open for you to upload through Saturday night at midnight. I'm going to quit because you guys aren't asking me questions, but I think that I think I've tried to answer every possible question, technique, and contingency that's out there. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. And hopefully we will have something to talk about when we get back together on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. So goodbye for now.